Barcus Wroot is a tenacious deep gnome and NPC you meet early on in Baldur's Gate 3. You might remember him as the silly gnome that was jumped by goblins and attached to a windmill. Some of you may have thrown him from said windmill, but do you know that this character has one of the most tumultuous journeys of any NPC in Baldur's Gate 3? By sending this poor gnome to his death, you're missing out on one of the most heart-wrenching side quests this game can provide. Loads of fun dialogue, and even rare items that span across all 3 acts. There's no way you'll have any feelings after this video other than, wow, I really love Barcus Wroot. This video might as well be a try not to like Barcus Wroot impossible challenge. I'm convinced no one can watch this video without feeling love for this little guy. So without further ado, this is the tumultuous tale of Barcus Wroot. An abandoned village, occupied by a few goblins, greets you as the forest clears. Busted windows, broken doors, entire homes reduced to rubble. This is the Blighted Village. As you enter, a single sound rings through the chorus of goblin cackles.
Stop this thing!
A deep gnome strapped to a spinning windmill begs to be released as the wargs and goblins gleefully cheer at his torment. However you choose to deal with this situation, either by negotiating with the goblins or attacking them, you can free this poor pinwheeling prisoner by flipping a switch inside the windmill. Just make sure you don't hit the release brake. Or, well, the gnome introduces himself as Barcus Wroot and explains that he's looking for his friend Wulbren, showing the player a bloodied amulet with Wulbren's name on it, which is also the only time Barcus softens during the entire conversation.
I'm in search of a friend. I fear he's in trouble. See this? I gave it to him years ago before I left home. I found it around the neck of a thug in the lower city. It was speckled with blood. My friend, nowhere to be found. But I still have hope. I have reason to believe he's in the Underdark. Hopefully, I'll pick up his trail from there. I always help my friends. On that note, I bid thee farewell. If we should meet again, well, we will have met again.
Barcus explains that he was traveling all the way from Baldur's Gate before he got captured by goblins. Once freed, he tells the player to take his pack if they can find it, explaining that that was what slowed him down, as he heads back into the wilderness to continue looking for Wulbren. As quickly as you found him, he's run off. Oh well, you probably won't see him again. Bubbling magma, the shrill clinking of pickaxes against stone in the deep hollows of the Underdark. After a journey across a lake of darkness, you are greeted by the Grimforge, run by tyrannical Duergar, slavers, and agents of the Absolute. A true soul named Nier was trapped under fallen wreckage. The enslaved deep gnomes are now responsible for saving him from his own trappings. Imagine my surprise when Barcus showed up again in the Grimforge, no less, intermingled in our major plot journey with the Absolute, excavating day and night without rest among the other deep gnomes.
Ah, it's you. The mascot of my ill fortunes.
You're really getting around, Barcus, my man, in a really unfortunate way. If you fight the Duergar and Nier without Barcus dying, you can invite him to your camp to rest, but only as a means of recuperation before searching for Wulbren again.
Certainly not. In case you haven't been paying attention, my friend has been taken captive. He needs me. Ha! I was unlucky twice. The odds of it happening again are very slim. Then again, a small rest might be prudent. Give me time to think. Fine. Show me where to go, and I'll try my luck. I'll have a better chance of rescuing Wulbren if I'm at my best. And, thank you.
Nevertheless, it's nice to have him around.
I thank you for the invitation to your camp. It's, well appointed, not too crowded, perfect for thinking. And I've been doing just that.
If given the option to join your camp, Barcus reiterates his gratitude for helping him find Wulbren. With the Duergar and Nier defeated, the Deep Gnomes are free to return home, either to the Underdark or to follow the Ironhand Gnomes to Baldur's Gate. Barcus's mission remains true. Finding Wulbren is his top priority, but he's realized just how out of depth a mission to Moonrise Towers is for him.
We know he's been taken to Moonrise Towers, and we know I'm going to save him. The problem is this. A preponderance of evidence that I am a terrible adventurer. I'm not sure I should trust Wulbren's fate to, well, me. You've done so much already. I'm hesitant to prevail upon you again, but I can't risk recapture. I barely escaped last time. You do it then. You'd look for him. That's very decent of you. Thank you. I'd kiss you, but neither of us deserve that.
In Act 1, a rare cutscene with Barcus can be unlocked, but only if you save him from the Grimforge before the Tiefling party and invite him back to your camp. In this scene, Barcus uses his talents to celebrate a little, despite his rampant anxieties over Wulbren.
I appreciate that you're proud of your victory, but it's just that. Yours. Wulbren is still missing, and there are gnomes trapped in Moonrise Towers. Me drinking beer won't save them, but if you insist. There. Celebration.
A single light in the darkness. A hideout for enemies of the Absolute and weary travelers of the Shadowlands. This refuge is full of faces, some familiar, some not. Welcome to the Last Light Inn. One familiar face we can find is our very own amateur adventurer, Barcus Wroot.
Ah, you found your way. Good. There's a recipe I'm trying to replicate. Something that might help you.
You'll find him in a side room alongside the makings of an alchemist's workbench, as he works on some new kind of smoke powder for a weapon called the Brilliant Retort, a weapon he's crafting just for you, as a thank you for looking for Wulbren. This is probably my favorite era of Barcus. He's got his little setup, he's very hopeful at the prospect of finding his friend at Moonrise Towers, and he's gathered allies along the way. He seems different here, more familiar, and we get to see him in his element, crafting, brewing, alchemizing. He seems happy. This is also the point where you can purchase some things from him, including one of the best gloves in the game, the Gloves of the Automaton. A pair of gloves that gives your weapon attack rolls advantage, and gives you resistance to lightning damage. Unfortunately, you can't be healed by spells while wearing them. I found this out the hard way, but other than that, these gloves are perfect. While Barcus is in a significantly more hopeful place from his previous appearances in Act 1, he is still consumed by his search for Wulbren and is still all business after the pleasantries.
Unless you've got access to a 300-year-old Tempusian apothecarial almanac? No. But that's for me to worry about. You do whatever it is you do. Some of us are counting on you.
Barcus Wroot, as we've seen, is lovely, so this Wulbren guy must be incredible from the way he talks about him, right? Right? Upon meeting Wulbren, he is, well, he's something. Sneaking Wulbren, the other Ironhand gnomes, and the captured tieflings out to the back docks of Moonrise Towers is easy enough, and understandably, Wulbren is pretty desperate to get out. After bringing the prisoners back to Last Light, Barcus is understandably excited.
You did? But that means... Wulbren! Wulbren!
After all, this is the person Barcus has traveled day and night for through perilous goblin-ridden forests, the cursed Shadowlands, and oh yeah, got literally enslaved in the Underdark for. And this is Wulbren's response.
I heard you might be about. How the devil did you get stuck here, Barcus?
I'm not stuck. I came to find you, of course.
Why would you do a foolish thing like that? Really, Barcus?
Unfortunately for me, you're my friend. Rescuing you from mortal peril is my right.
But you didn't rescue me, did you? I rescued myself, with the aid of this helper.
Thank you very much for your help finding Wulbren.
You don't belong here, Barcus. As soon as the way is clear, pack up and head to Baldur's Gate.
But... Wulbren, the rune powder. We need to discuss what you're going to...
I said go home!
Bitch, who the fuck? And Barcus is so happy to see him. Oh my god, Barcus, this is the guy. This is the guy. Wulbren, when I catch you, Wulbren. Wulbren, when I catch you, Wulbren.
Please, that isn't necessary.
Indeed. Neither of you has any clue what's at stake. And why should you? It's Ironhand gnome business. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a great deal to do.
Well, there we have it. Wulbren is safe and sound, thanks to you. I owe you a great deal. The brilliant retort, for starters. Here you are. As promised, I give you the brilliant retort. Now, I believe our business is well and truly concluded. Don't judge him too harshly. He's been through a lot. When he's had some rest, he'll be back to his usual self. Well, once you're used to someone, you're used to them. Perhaps Wulbren is right. Perhaps I ought to return to Baldur's Gate. Oh, that's all right. I'm a patient fellow. I'm sure you'll clear a path for everyone soon enough.
Unfortunately, this interaction doesn't have any sort of resolution. Wulbren goes back to his table to talk about Ironhand gnome business, and Barcus, not invited to said conversation, goes back to his workbench alone, clearly hurt, but pushing that feeling as deep down as he can because the person he loves more than anything is safe. Barcus, no! First time I watched that cutscene, I was furious, as you may have noticed, but that night I used that fury to write 10 pages of fanfiction where Barcus falls in love with a mountain dwarf fighter named Grom Nightstone, who is this strong, silent type that looks after Barcus and is absolutely smitten with him because that's what Barcus deserves. Barcus deserves a hunk with a heart of gold who will worship and protect him and give him kisses on his bald little forehead and listen while he rambles on about his newest contraptions and smile when Barcus finally realizes he's been talking a long time, but they don't care. They just love seeing Barcus light up because his passion is so infectious. They just love seeing Barcus happy even if they don't understand everything he's talking about. I am so totally normal about this character. The only evidence we have that Wulbren actually ever cared about Barcus is in a splattered journal in the decrepit village in the Underdark. The entry reads as follows: a badly charred diary with property of Wulbren written on the inside cover. In one of the few legible entries, the author wonders if he'll ever see his friend Barcus again, now that he's departed for the surface world. It seems like this diary entry was written when Barcus and Wulbren were much younger, sometime after Barcus started his life in Baldur's Gate, and likely before Wulbren began his work with the Ironhand Gnomes. By the way, if you've made it this far and you want to support a queer creator who actually cites their sources, please subscribe, leave a comment if you learned something new, and like the video to feed the algorithm. Thank you! After weeks of trudging through the wilderness, the hustle and bustle of the city is overwhelming. Constant chatter, the impending doom of the Netherbrain fight, the influx of new characters, so it feels good to see a familiar face that has been with you since the very beginning. Tucked away in a cliffside near the south span of Worm's Crossing is a hideaway for the Ironhand Gnomes and the headquarters for Wulbren Bongal and his brigand of terrorists? Dare I say? Their plan is to blow up the Steelwatch foundry that controls Gortash's Robocops. Great, we love that, ACAB. With the Gondian Gnomes inside. Oh, that's not. In the sense that he wants to do a terrorism and also a genocide. Now, before we get too far into this, I'd like to go into the history of Wulbren Bongal so we can know a little bit about where he came from and gain some rationalization as to why he feels this way about the Gondians. Spoiler, it's bigotry, but there's also history here. To get a little more background on the Ironhand-Gondian conflict, we can reference a book found in Rivington General called Ironhand Gnomes, Our Grievances. This book acts as a chronicle documenting the mistreatment of the Ironhand clan of Baldur's Gate. Quick background: the Ironhand Gnomes worship Gerdal Ironhand, and the Gondian Gnomes worship Gond. Got that? Okay. The Ironhand Gnomes are depicted as artisans and geniuses amongst artificers in this text, while the other craftsmen in Baldur's Gate are said to be running crude workshops and cheap imitations of Ironhand creations. In the text, the Ironhands are referenced as generously sharing their methods with these others. Yes, they are referenced as others. What the fuck? This led to the Church of Gond flourishing with this newfound knowledge, and according to this chronicle, the Gondians took credit for Ironhand creations. Gerdal Ironhand, the celestial deity of the Ironhand Gnomes, spoke to Wulverforce Bongal, Wulbren's ancestor, saying, "Suffer not these Gondians to steal thy livelihoods." The Ironhand gnomes openly criticized the poor craftsmanship of Gondian creations, and in retaliation, the Church of Gon began defending itself by slandering the Ironhand clan. Subsequently, Wilberforce Bongle became consumed by anger and perished in an unfortunate rune powder incident. In its wake, the city and the Flaming Fist drove the Ironhand gnomes into exile. That's basically the summary of the text, and I'm not sure how reliable this account is because it doesn't even mention the Ironhand's involvement with Saravuk Anchev, powerful Deathbringer and mortal offspring of the god of murder Baal, which was the main reason the Ironhand gnomes were exiled from Baldur's Gate in the first place. Wulbren even cites this involvement with Saravuk himself as a major point of shame for the Ironhands as he relentlessly struggles to bring the Ironhand gnomes back to power.
We are inventors of the highest order, matched, perhaps, but never surpassed by the Gondians at the High House of Wonders. But our forebears were foolish, complicit with Saravok's madness over a century past. And so, we were banished. It's the only mistake the Ironhand gnomes ever made.
Wulbren, as earlier stated, was a descendant of Wilberforce Bongle, who, according to this chronicle, once spoke to Gerdal Ironhand, the, for lack of a better word, god of the Ironhand gnomes. We can assume that even if Wilberforce wasn't necessarily his god's chosen, he was at the very least chosen to pass on that message to the other Ironhand gnomes, stoking the hatred between the Gondians and the Ironhands. Furthermore, as a descendant of Wilberforce, Wulbren was obsessed with his hatred of the Gondians, who Wulbren believes once stole the technologies of Clan Ironhand. Wulbren's anger towards the Gondians is further fueled by their servitude of Lord Enver Gortash, whom Wulbren considers a tyrant, despite the fact that the Gondians served Gortash by force, as their loved ones were taken hostage in an underwater prison, the Iron Throne. This is pretty hypocritical of Wulbren if you think about it. It seems like the hatred of the Gondians is rooted in bigotry, but also a projection of his deep shame that Wulbren feels about the history of his own people. I mean, think about it. Both the Gondians and the Ironhands served evil tyrants. Gondians served Gortash, and the Ironhands served Saravok. The only difference is that the Gondians served by force and were enslaved, while their family members were held hostage, and the Ironhands chose to align themselves with Baal's chosen. And yet, Wulbren believes that all Gondians deserve to die. For reference, here is Ironhand Gnomes, Our Grievances, in its entirety. All know that the primal source of mechano-magical method and measurement is Gerdal Ironhand, gnomic deity of militant artifice. For generations, the Ironhand clan reverently toiled in their Baldur's Gate workshops, creating intricate devices of precision and beauty, crafting in peace, alongside the sweatshops of lesser artisans. Sometimes, in their generosity, the Ironhands even shared methods with these others. But then did the adherents of the thief god Gond, in their hubris, found a house of wonders and arrogate to themselves the labor and credit of all mechano-magical works in Baldur's Gate. And many gnomes did join the Gondians, to their shame. And the voice of Gerdal spoke to Wilberforce Bongle, and said unto him, Suffer not these Gondians to steal thy livelihoods. And so Wilberforce spake out against the Gondians, citing the flaws and errors in their shoddy works, rightly extolling the superiority of the creations of the Ironhands. In response to the Gondians, in their envy and choler, did utter vile slander and calumny against the Ironhands, and Wilberforce was wroth. There followed the death of Wilberforce in the unfortunate rune powder incident, and the Ironhands, with the complicity of the Flaming Fist, were driven from the city in woeful exile. Barcus is naturally quite outspoken against Wulbren's plan and pleads with the player to speak with the Gondians and find a peaceful resolution, all while Wulbren is urging the player to strike against the Gondians. To further encourage this, Wulbren gives the player the most powerful rune powder bomb in the game.
The Gondians picked their side the minute they took orders from Gortash. If they had any courage, they'd have refused him and died like heroes, spitting in his face. Now they'll die like the dogs they are.
That's what I've been saying. There may yet be a peaceful solution.
Fine. You want to try flapping your gums in the belly of the beast? Be my guest. But their idea of diplomacy is a steel fist shoved where the sun don't shine. So take the bomb, just in case I'm right and you're wrong.
A rune powder bomb? Ah, what the devil has he become? You'll hear no argument on that score. But using rune powder on the Gondians? They are inventors, just like us. Persnickety and self-important too. But we all have our moments. Something is wrong. Very wrong. Please, speak to them before you do anything. They deserve a chance to plead their case before being blown to pieces, don't you think? That's all I ask. Questions first, violence later. And only if absolutely necessary.
After saving the Gondian hostages from the Iron Throne and allying with the Gondians to take down the Steel Watch Foundry, the player can place the rune powder bomb at the center of the foundry, watching it all blow up in flames after getting the Gondian prisoners to safety. At the site of the Steel Watch Foundry explosion, Wulbren steps into frame with a slow clap, no less. God, this guy is such a fucking asshole. He applauds the player for a hell of a show, but insists that there is still work to be done. The rest of the Gondians must be destroyed. Xander Tubin, leader of the Gondians, who, may I remind you, has been permanently disabled by this experience, is like, look man, you won, can I just go home to my daughter?
Enough, Wulbren. Gortash enslaved us, forced us to build his steel watches, but no more. Take the city, let the Iron Hands reign supreme. I just wish to go home and hold my daughter.
Please. If a Gondian told me the sky was blue, I'd look outside and check.
But Wulbren does not let up. Barcus finally steps in.
You Gondians will lie, scheme, and torment this city until your dying breaths. Let's end this!
Wulbren, enough! I won't watch as you poison your soul. And the brilliant future that remains to the Ironhand Gnomes. I thought the Ironhand Gnomes had corrupted you, Wulbren. Now, I wonder if it wasn't the other way around. Kill the Gondians, and you kill all we love. Collaboration, challenge, solving problems with the power of reason, creativity, and invention. I still want to believe you're better than that, Wulbren. But even I am having my doubts.
Now, there's a few different endings that can happen here. There's two choices without rolls that both end in combat. The player can choose to side with Wulbren and kill the Gondians. Boo! This leads to Barcus giving a line that physically hurts me to hear.
I wish you'd left me tied to that infernal windmill. At least I would have been spared witnessing this horror. We won't meet again.
And you get Wulbren as an ally, which is its own punishment, you heartless asshole. Or the player can turn against Wulbren and fight him with the Gondians as allies. Barcus is pretty heartbroken with both of these options.
The bastards must pay for their arrogance, their greed, and a true rebel dies for his cause.
I followed him through the city, to the wilds, through the Underdark, and back home again. Still, I couldn't save Wulbren from himself. I don't think anyone could. As am I. I must inform his family, arrange his affairs as much as I am able. I wish it hadn't ended like this. But I know you did all you could to help Wulbren, to help me. I may have lost Wulbren, but I don't leave this place friendless. That much I know for certain. I wish you the very best. And then a little on top.
The player can make an intimidation roll to defuse the situation, in which case Wulbren takes the Ironhand Gnomes and runs off, and Barcus says he's going after him again. No!
I thought you were a rebel in arms. I see now you were but a snake, waiting for its moment to strike. Keep your precious Gondians, but know that I will not rest until this city is rid of them and their bootlickers. When the day comes, my hammer will find your skulls and crack them wide open. Iron Hands, move out!
I followed him through the city, to the wilds, through the Underdark and back home again. Still, I just can't save Wulbren. He won't rest until the Gondians are dead, and you in the bargain. Because he has the same weakness as the Gondians. Pride. He's simply more honest about it, and more brutal. Which is why I'm going after him. Someone has to stop him from ending his life in a blaze of foolishness. I'd tell you to write, but I never checked the post. Farewell, my friend, and good luck.
The last one is my favorite. The player can make a persuasion roll and nominate Barcus to be the new leader of the Ironhand Gnomes.
I say you're right. They deserve a leader who'll encourage them to create, not destroy. They deserve someone like me. I can't save you from yourself, Wulbren. It hurts terribly. But I can't. Toss your values in the bin if you want. Don't throw out the Iron Hands with them.
This is ridiculous. Iron Hands, kill this man. How dare you? Cowards!
The Gondians recognize Barcus Wroot as leader of the Ironhand Gnomes and look forward to ushering in a new peace between our factions.
It is with a heavy heart that I remove Wulbren Bongle from our ranks. You have until first light to leave the city. Wulbren.
I expect treachery from all sides, but you, little Barcus, the boy who followed me from the Underdark, who clung to me like moss to stone, when we next meet, my hammer will cleave your skull in two, and that is a promise!
Well, here we are. A most unexpected outcome. I take no pleasure in ousting Wulbren, but he's not the old friend I remember. When did he get so angry? So violent? Someone like that cannot lead the Ironhand Gnomes. We need peace. Thank you for your encouragement. I needed it, and have done since the day we met. I may have lost Wulbren, but I found a far preferable ally. Friend, even. Now, myself and the Ironhand Gnomes have much to disentangle. Shoo then. For now. My friend.
Before the player enters the final battle, they're greeted by the allies gathered throughout the game. If Barcus becomes the new leader of the Ironhand Gnomes, he appears alongside you as an ally, happy to fight with his new friend.
My debt to you still stands. The Ironhand Gnome's firepower is yours to command. Just show us where it's needed.
6 months after the fight with the Netherbrain, the party will gather for an extended epilogue sequence, which takes place at a suppertime gathering thrown by Withers at the Wilderness campsite. The gathering serves as an opportunity for all the companions to reunite and share how they've been faring since parting ways, and for the player to gain closure on the stories of each companion. In the epilogue, a number of NPCs send letters to the party, updating them on their situation and wishing the player well. If Barcus Wroot is the leader of the Iron Hands, this letter is attached to the board. To whom it may concern. Withers gave me this address and said I could consider writing. Thus, an update. The Ironhand Gnomes are nearly beyond help, but I've managed to yoke them into something resembling a coherent force for innovation. We've been hired to assist in the city's reconstruction, and our steam-powered object motorations are helping to move building supplies in every part of the city. It's nothing, really. I am well. I trust you are too. We deserve it, after all. Don't we? Barcus Wroot. If Barcus is not made the leader of the Ironhand Gnomes, a different letter is attached. To whom it may concern. Withers gave me this address and said I could consider writing. Well, I considered it. Return address included. Best, Barcus Wroot. Some might think this is a little less heartfelt, and you may be right, but for some reason, I read this letter and it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. It's reminiscent of that first meeting with Barcus.
If we should meet again, well, we will have met again.
And it mirrors Barcus's all-business personality, but you can't deny their sentimentality there. He's sending out a letter with the intention and hope that the player will write back. It's simple, it's sweet, and I personally love it. Barcus is one of those NPCs that completionists and lawful good players have really taken a liking to. Since there are multiple ways for Barcus to die in this game, it can be easy to miss his story entirely. But for most everyone lucky enough to see it in totality, It's hard not to love him. Barcus has unintentionally garnered a cult following online, with a niche group of Baldur's Gate players passionately voicing their love for him and his journey, myself included.
Barcus Wroot is one hell of a man. He is kind, caring, funny, brave, intelligent, and well-educated, loyal almost to a fault, and he is handsome. I don't think that he has a single hateful bone in his entire body. He's just as close to perfect husband material as you will ever find anywhere.
Of what other NPCs would you have liked to have seen as companions in Baldur's Gate 3? And I got several people saying Barcus Wroot. He's a rad character, and I would have loved to see more of him, and I agree, this would have been a great character to get as a companion. Barcus Wroot would have been fantastic. I need it.
Fuck you, Wilburn. I dare you to try and touch Barcus. I dare you. I will fucking slay you in the street, brother.
That is to say, they gabbed about their plans like a geese, and I overheard them. Like a very devious goose.
It's not hard to see the outpouring of fandom love for Barcus on various social media platforms, one of the most popular being the hottest diss track to ever come out of Faerun, Fuck Wilburn Bongle.
I'ma leave you rotting as a carcass, pissing on your corpse saying this one for Barcus.
TikTok in particular is full of supportive creators making edits, memes, and even a statue of him. And don't even get me started on the fan art, people shipping their Tavs and dirges with Barcus to give him the loving relationship he so deeply deserves has healed me in a way that is indescribable. And many fans are even going so far as to request that he be made a recruitable companion. While I think this might be a long shot, especially since the game has already been out for almost 6 months at the time of me filming this, I do think it would be possible within the canon of the narrative, so naturally, I will go into why this works. While Artificers are not a supported class in Baldur's Gate 3, if it were added, there's no reason for Barcus Wroot to not be a recruitable companion. I mean, hell, he might have more background and story content than Halsin. If Artificers are ever added to the game, Barcus would be the most natural choice for a romanceable companion because he's one of the few NPCs that follows you through all 3 acts. His story is compelling, and going through the journey of, quote, not being cut out to be an adventurer to becoming competent in battle would be an interesting arc in addition to the Ironhand gnome business. Barcus becoming stronger than Wilburn ever thought he could be is the most satisfying ending I could ever conjure. I'm not that little helpless kid from the Underdark anymore would be such a glow up for Barcus, and a nice change of pace from the other companions because pretty much everyone else in the party is a trained killer from the start. Except Gale, but even Gale is still an incredibly powerful wizard who has been nerfed by the tadpole. And let's be real, he could still explode and kill everyone in a 1-mile radius if he wanted to. I really like the idea of Barcus being a companion who is just a guy, but through his numerous trials and tribulations, he grows, he changes, he learns, and he becomes stronger not only for himself, but to help his new friends. And it would be nice to have some variety in romanceable races. As of February 2024, there aren't any romanceable companions that are little people, despite 1/3 of the playable races being little people. I never want to be ungrateful when talking about Baldur's Gate 3, especially considering just how much it has given us in the past 6 months alone, but I do think Barcus as a romanceable companion would make a lot of sense as an addition. He could join you at the end of Act 2, like Halsin and Jaheira, or even at the start of Act 3 when you find him in the Ironhand Gnome's base, and we could finally give him that kiss that he was talking about.
I'd kiss you, but neither of us deserve that.
Our love of Barcus is due in no small part to the amazing performance by his actor, Dario Coates, who happened to have an impressive list of roles in Baldur's Gate 3. The senior voice director of Baldur's Gate 3, Beth Park, shared her experience working with him in the booth on her TikTok page.
This guy, I think, wins the prize for the most number of characters played. This guy rivals the Origin characters for the amount of time he actually spent in the studio. I mean, probably not literally, but he spent so long in the studio, and you'd give him more characters, he nailed it, then you'd give him some more when he was coming in to do pickups. Not only does he play your little Tritos guy, your Popper, the kobold, he also plays Barcus Wroot. He also plays Danis, Icaron, Zoru. Which other ones? There's so many. I'll put them on the screen. I'll put some pictures up. His name is Dario Coates, And he is such a good actor, so reliable. And basically, if ever you see a character who you think is a bit of a victim or having a horrible time, then Dario will nail it. You might recognise him if you watch the most recent series of You, in which he played Connie. So it was very exciting over the last couple of years when he would be coming into the studio and he was like, well, I've got a job with Netflix, I can't tell you what it is.
Oh, hungry little hobgoblin. Want a treat-o?
Dario Coates' performance makes Barcus not only a memorable character with a lot of heart to him, but one we desperately want more of. Barcus Wroot is a man of conviction, and that conviction gives him courage despite being so mild-mannered. He's a regular guy in exceptional circumstances, and realistically, if the average person was thrown into Faerun, they would probably end up like Barcus Wroot. Barcus is headstrong and kind and talented and brilliant. He's a self-deprecating short king and a goofy little guy. He is very endearing in his comments towards the player, and it's compelling to watch him gain agency and stick up for himself as the game progresses. It's possible for us to see him emerge from this incredibly toxic relationship and come out of it on the other side stronger, wiser, a leader of Clan Ironhand. Why wouldn't you root for him? Root for him, get it? Okay, enough of that. But at the end of the day, we probably love him because most of us have been Barcus. We've stuck our necks out for people who didn't deserve us. We gave too much love to someone who didn't love us the same way. We tried to find the good in someone that just wasn't there. And we can understand how heavy a heartbreak like that feels. We empathize, and we can only hope for something better for those who deserve it. Here's to all the Barcus Wroots out there. May we finally get something better. Thank you so much for watching. My next video in this series is either going to be Roland or Zevlor, so make sure to comment which NPC you would like to explore next, or if there's a different NPC that you'd like to explore, be sure to let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for listening if you've made it this far. Barcus Wroot is one of my favorite NPCs of all time. I really love him and his story. I hope to see more fan content of him in the future. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Bye!